who is this Jim Ullery? And the next thing you know, we're all looking at the front, and then to demonstrate a schema buster, which we'll cover this afternoon, we hear this guy comes in with an apron on, going, "Get your peanuts, get your peanuts." Now, trust me, we had a lot of presenters. Jack Mackey was one of them. Very different experience. You know, someone's up on stage. This guy's come from the back, and he actually had a peanut tray. Now, that will stay with me, that memory, forever. And he linked it to a concept called stop selling, start helping. And that reframed for me things beautifully. And I went, I want in Sales Academy. So we've been collaborating with its various versions of Sales Academy ever since. And I've even got on my wall, I've been to Florida twice. Oh, you can't, there we go. So that's the Sales Pro Professional Selling System, Need Satisfaction Selling. And thank you for Jim for inspiring me to love the battle in sales as I act with noble purpose to help clients get into a better position faster. So without any further ado, your 6 minutes starts in a moment, Jim, on stop selling, start helping, and the 7 KPIs, possibly. Over to you, Jim.
Great. Well, thank you, Jamie. It's a pleasure to be with you. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today. And I pledge to make the next 6 to 7 minutes extraordinary for you. I know that I'm here, and if I could be of assistance in the long term, reach out to Jamie and he'll put you in touch with me. When you sell, you do something to people. When you help, you do something for people. All of us have, during our lifetimes, sales lifetimes, we have 1, 2, maybe 3 transactions that we need to have in order to close our quarter. And the sales in those categories produce the greatest revenue because they are multiples of the standard deal. They're large, they're strategic opportunities, and they're vital to reach and surpass our quota. They are also very, very highly visible to senior management. And there is a disproportionate impact on your quarter if you close them and you make your quarter. If you don't accomplish the must-win deals, very frequently you will fall short. Now, I generally find that salespeople have become very dependent on their CRM systems, which are adequate for current processes, and they're designed for the business as usual transactions. If you treat your must-win deals the same way and you expect the same win rate, there is a great likelihood that the competition is going to be using different tools. So I want to give you some attributes that you can work on to look at 7 different keys to close big sales that make money by helping your customers. Not selling and doing something to them, but helping and doing something for them. We need, as salespeople, to remain objective. We need to build trust. We need to get the right price. And we need to keep selling even when the deal is done and we have lost the deal. And I'll relay some extraordinary stories of lost deals that were recovered. Now, there are 7 attributes that I want to talk to you about. First of all, you have the ability to develop within your sales department what I call forensics to eliminate deal fever. Now, deal fever is very much like summit fever. If you've ever talked with a mountaineer or you've read about a mountaineer, it describes the drive or the compulsion of a climber to reach the summit no matter what the cost is. And reason very often disappears because the air is thin, they're running short of resources, they're facing adversity. So there's an inclination to push forward when the deal or the climb is such a glamorous outcome. In closing deals, closing large deals is glamorous, and due diligence does not always hold steady. It's very easy to get caught up in the excitement of a deal. So I encourage deal forensics. The second thing I encourage is avoiding the over-engineering of a solution. We don't always have the best answer because we don't understand what the compelling event is that's driving the customer to solve a problem or dissatisfaction they have. We must determine what the budget is, what the price is, and the result is we won't lose deals based on price that ultimately comes out too high. Help the customer by finding what they have in their budget and what they're currently losing under the current system that they're using to accomplish what you want to replace. Now, the third attribute is I want you to start thinking about your relationships in a more scientific way. Companies that manage relationships use deal relationships to map out an understanding of who really matters and how each party relates to price, quality, service. Appoint an overall leader to standardize processes within your organization. A frequent complaint about senior leaders is that they lack people with full range of skills to understand and require what is necessary for a big deal to close. So sit down with your sales group and figure out what are the attributes that somebody independent of the sale will constantly monitor on a day-to-day basis. Fifth level is align the incentives to match the shareholder value. This can be a terrible misalignment. Recently, I saw a discounting on a deal go from 350 million to 320 million. That allowed for a hefty bonus to the salespeople, but the $30 million reduction came up short for company profit. So the net result was there was a loss of money on the deal. We have to have alignment with shareholder value because if the shareholders are not satisfied, they're not going to be happy with the sales department. Sixth level, keep selling even after the deal is lost. We had a deal recently with one of our customers that was lost on a Friday. The CEO got on a plane, flew to the West Coast, met with the client. By Monday morning, the board and the president of the buying company reversed their decision, gave the customer the business. And then the final thing is rethink the role of the CEO or the senior leaders on your sales team. You can turn to them when you have these mammoth deals, these mega deals that have to close, get them involved in the transaction, walk them through, let them know on a regular basis where the sales starts. And what this will result in is we have demonstrated where the win rate using deal forensic has moved from 44% up to 82% by simply putting these 7 attributes in place. And I'd be happy to share more with you about that. Jamie, how did I do?
Wow, you keep getting better and better. Fantastic, Jim. Thank you very much. Wow, drinking from a fire hose here. Any questions? What questions do you have, rather?
All right, then. It's been a pleasure.
I guess you must be the slot before lunch, Jim, or the morning power nap in Saudi Arabia. I can see Daniel's eyes. He's trying to concentrate. So let's hear from Tony Tees or Wayne Croker. Any questions for Jim? Wayne is talking.
Turn your microphone on, Wayne.
Say that again. We missed the joke. You might repeat it.
So unfortunately, I took a phone call and I recorded that instead. So I'll email in any questions that I might have later. You might have noticed that my square went blank. That was me.
So no, thanks, Wayne. So Jim, can you just run down, because I know I was just down the 7 items one by one, so that we can write them down. Would that be all right?
I'll send you the deck, the slide deck, if you'd like.
Okay. Just for the yep.
Use deal forensics.
Yep. Number one.
To eliminate deal fever.
Yep.
And quite frankly, this is just like when you're climbing a mountain. You want to get to the top, but your resources are exhausted. My belief is that sales departments can sit down and focus on what are the attributes that are important to be monitoring as far as sales are concerned, and we keep each other reasonable. The second item is avoid over-engineering a solution. There is a tendency for salespeople to go in knowing what their product is so well that they don't get a clear picture of what it is the customer actually needs. And the scary part of it is it's not just us as salespeople that don't see what customers need. The real implication is that the customer doesn't see what they need. You see, our greatest competitor is not the competition as we see it. The greatest competition is what the customer is currently doing to accomplish what they are doing. They put Band-Aids and tinker toy pieces together in order to get the job done. You're coming in to replace what they're doing and do it a different way. So they have to know that they have a need first, because to them, your solution costs money. What they're currently doing is free. The third attribute that we talk about is think about relationships in a more scientific way. There is a level of networking and a level of relationship that you can have. So many people today run to connect with people on LinkedIn, but it's not the connection on LinkedIn. It's not the networking event where you meet the people. It's how you build a connection into an ally, into a strategic partner, into a referral source. And we need to have a strategic plan as we go into customers and rationalize how we build these relationships in a scientific way. You and your sales teams can focus on how you do that. Fourth, appoint an overall leader to standardize processes. If a must-win deal is equal to 5 to 10 times what a normal deal is, we ought to collectively sit down and look at those very large transactions and figure out what must happen for us to accomplish that sale. And that requires the attributes and thinking of everybody on the sales team, because you may have the big deal today, but your associate may have the big deal next week. We need to help one another accomplish those big deals, because if we're going to make the quarter, if we're going to make the month, everyone needs to participate in looking at that transaction and making sure that we cross our T and dot our I's. Align the incentives to match the shareholder value. The only reason that our jobs exist today is to create an extraordinary return on investment for the shareholders. It's the owners of the company. It's not just the profitability that we are after for the quarter, for the month, for the period. We are after increasing shareholder value, because the people that invested in the company, whether it's a closely held family organization or it's a public company, they invested in the company because they want a return on their investment that's superior to any alternative investment that they would make. So we've got to make certain that the incentives that we have in place for sales don't cut our nose to spite our face. I've seen sales departments go in and do something that's extremely good for them, but it's outright terrible for the corporate entity. Recent negotiation that took place here in the States, they fought for 3 months to get the deal. They had this high to get the deal. They finally got the deal, and they neglected to change the dates of delivery that were required. So they won the contract, and within 2 weeks, they had a major delivery that they could not deliver on. They lost multi-millions of dollars because they did not do their due diligence as far as adjusting the contract. So be sure that you're looking out for the shareholder value. Keep selling after you lose the deal. Get leaders in your company involved. Partner with your VP of sales. Partner with your senior executives. Those senior executives may not have been on sales calls recently. Align with them. Get them to come with you on the deals that really matter. We've all got a super deal or two in our prospect list. Bring senior management along on sales calls. Get them involved in sales calls so that we can close more of the mega deals that we're talking about. So those are the 7 attributes.
Is that your pussycat ringing the bells there, Jim?
Actually, my Ring alarm system going off out front. Somebody's robbing me.
It's telling you to shut up. No, that was brilliant. Thank you for that. Look, another round of applause for Jim Ullery, everyone. Now, the good news is we're going to see from Jim again. Before I announce when that is, I'd just like to follow up a couple of points you've just made. Does anyone have another question before I do? Okay. They're great students, aren't they, Jim? You talked about over-engineering and not understanding, not clarity around need, and that will be the client and sometimes ourselves if we haven't asked the right questions. So is that what we call indifference? When
Yes.
What they're doing is costing nothing and what we're doing costs. So and that's the biggest barrier to that we're going to find.
65% of what you're going to encounter in selling is indifference. The
Okay.
customer has a solution they believe is adequate, and they don't want to see your idea.
Okay.
Our role is to learn more about that.
The other thing I had, because I'll be asking people or have asked people to pick 3 ideas that they're going to commit to over 7, 37, 67 days. And we'll be checking in 3 times to see everyone's going. I really love ideas that have a proven return on investment. And I just want to check with you, I've got this right, that when you talk about lost sale selling, so we lose the deal to someone else, as long as we're still in there going, hey, we're still around, what does the research say happens? You know, what does that do to our sales on average if we do that well?
This is a double-edged sword. When there is a lot of wasted time going after prospects that are never going to buy from you. As a matter of fact, I look at sales funnels, and I can tell you that most salespeople have 25 to 30% of their funnel is a deal that's never going to close. On the other hand, you've got deals that do close with a competitor, a legitimate competitor, not settling for the status quo. And when we fail to go after those transactions to determine what it is that we can do to take care of that customer at a better level, we're really missing a tremendous opportunity. It is bringing in senior management. It is bringing in deeper listening skills. It's finding the indifference associated with the transaction. It's adding in and taking out what the customer wants or doesn't want in order to make the price more reasonable. So don't give up after the sale is lost. A recent example of this was I was riding with a salesperson who was actually delivering a better product than the customer had ordered. And as the salesperson was explaining why it was so much better, he told the customer something about the product that the customer did not want. It was a lift that moved at 2 speeds, 1.5 miles and 3 miles an hour with the flip of a switch. And the customer that was taking delivery of this $85,000 machine said, "Take it back, I don't want it." And the salesperson who was just explaining all the extras that he'd gotten, and he thought it was wonderful that he was getting a lift with a choice of 1.5 or 3 miles an hour, said, "I don't want it." Well, the reason he didn't want it was 3 miles an hour he deemed to be unsafe, because he was going to have his electricians 85 feet in the air during a fair. This was pre-COVID, so they had patrons coming to the fair. Now nobody even comes to the fair because they don't hold the fair. But he didn't want the electrician to have the ability to go 3 miles an hour, so it was oversold. Now, I happen to know the resolution of that was the very same lift was delivered, but they drilled out the switch. That lift is perfectly capable of going 3 miles an hour. It just doesn't have the switch to turn the engines up to go to 3 miles an hour, because they reversed it back. Sometimes you give extra and the customers don't want it. So you got to listen to what is it that the customer wants to go from there.
Great. Jim, final question from me is, since you've been working with Oculus and we've had a discussion around where do things go wrong, and you mentioned to me, and you've touched on it in your list here, about an understanding of the compelling event. Would you like just to close off on that comment so people have got a walk away?
The compelling event is the reason that a customer will spend money to solve a problem or dissatisfaction that they have. We not only have to understand what the compelling event is, but more importantly, the customer needs to understand what the compelling event is. If the customer doesn't understand the problem or dissatisfaction and the implication of the problem or dissatisfaction, they're never going to invest money in your product. Most clients that I work with, that I sell with, and my customers tend to be small sales departments, anywhere from 2 to 9 salespeople, and I work with them on their biggest deals. And what I discover is when they get to the big deals, they get all excited about them because these deals probably amount to career building opportunities. They've never had a sale 10 times the normal sale. So they get all nervous and jerky about it. So finding the compelling event and not reacting to it, just listening, making the customer understand what the implications are of that compelling event. Because very frequently, customers don't understand fully what the opportunity is for them to make something better. So we help them understand the effects of the situation they're in and show them where the savings is. Generally, you can show a customer they're going to save more money than they spend with the products that you sell.
Good. Well, thank you, Jim. And so 2 things. Your next appearance was going to be tomorrow, but we did have a chat about this, and you kindly said, "Jamie, if the Saudis can get up at 2 a.m., I can stay up until 2 a.m. So that was another joke, but he also, but Jim was serious. He said he meant he's quite happy to be flexible. So rather than Jim coming back tomorrow, he's offered to come back in 30 or 60 days' time to check in to see how we're going as we advance our action plans. Does that sound okay to everyone else?
Yep.
Okay, brilliant. Well, and the other thing we talked about there is demonstrating value. We've got your friend Ron Hubshire is joining us to talk about that. So we're looking forward to that. And thank you for that introduction, Jim.
You're in for a treat with Ron. Ron's a great guy.
Okay, well, thanks again. Now, what I'd like to do now is for each person, we're going to have a long break. Is everyone okay with a long break? Is anyone not? Wayne's come back online and gone, I'm okay with a long break. So before we do that, I'm instead of 45 minutes, I'm going to suggest an hour and 15 minutes. Is everyone okay with that? Yes? So
Yes.
11:45, so it's talk. So we start again at 1 p.m. But let's just recap what Jim has gone through there and the 7 KPIs, winning big deals, and just one takeaway, because we're going to have lots. And tomorrow I'm going to say pick 3 and let's drill these babies. So just reflect on that now. I'm going to put you back with your accountability partner. After lunch, though, you're going to say goodbye. I'm going to put you with someone else. Does anyone like me to do that sooner rather than later? Okay, all right. There was another attempt at humour. It is looking forward to the break. So I'm going to put you in the breakout rooms and then, you know, go and do your stuff. You catch up with your sleep in Saudi. I hope no one looked at their emails until now. We'll talk about removing distractions in a moment. And we'll see you at 1 p.m. That's in an hour and 15 from now. So that's -3 hours for Bangkok, -7 hours for Saudi, minus lots of hours for you, Jim.